Hi guys, how are you? My name is Bruno, and today we're going to have a really interesting workshop. We're going to receive Robyn Levin, and basically we're going to talk about how to use PR to go grow your brand. Okay, Robyn Levin is a strategic marketing PR consultant with over 20 years experience. Okay, specializing in celebritizing entrepreneurs, nonprofit, wellness tourism brands, and they she helps them to increase brand awareness and growth. But today we're going to learn much more than this. But before this, leave here in the comments the city that you are right now and if you know BIGVU. Okay, just to remember you that this workshop will be recorded and it will be available here in our YouTube channel. Okay, leave here in the comments the city that you are. I will start. I'm in Lima, Peru, and my name is Bruno. And that's it. The questions, if you have something is not clear, at the end of the workshop. And Robyn is with you. The stage is yours.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome. And I am here in Florida. So would love to know where you are today. We are going to be sharing a lot of information. Thank you, Bruno, for the wonderful introduction. And thank you, BIGVU. It's a pleasure to be here. So we're going to talk about 5 tips how to use PR to grow your brand, even if you don't have any experience in PR or no media contacts. So you're going to learn a lot. What we're going to do is talk about how to spotlight your story. Celebritize you, meaning get you on the red carpet in your industry. Now, here's what we're going to learn. How to grow your brand with free publicity, how to stand out in your industry, even if it's really crowded, like the real estate industry, how to drive more website traffic, and 10 ways to repurpose your content. So stick around because that's toward the end, but well worth it. So first question here is, I often get when I'm speaking, what's the difference between advertising and PR? So on the left, you see a lot of money that goes toward advertising. And on the right, we often say, advertising you pay, PR you pray. You pray that your story is going to be picked up in the media. So that's how we look at that. Now, curious, for those of you watching, and if you're catching the replay, let me know in the comments, have you used PR in your business? Just say yes or no. Shout out to Val, I see you watching. Hello from Wisconsin, UK, New York City, Santa Cruz, California. While you're telling me yes or no, I'm just going to share who's here today. So again, the question was, have you used PR in your business? Yes or no? Well, you may have heard the saying, the person was an overnight success, and you can become an overnight success. And a lot of times that happens by appearing in the media. It could be on the Today Show. It could be your local news. It could be a big newspaper. So a lot of times a brand becomes an overnight success, but you may not know that they've been growing it for 5, 10, or 20 years, or maybe they did just launch it. So I'm going to walk you through a lot of stories, share with you some client examples, and I want you to be thinking about how you can utilize some of these ideas, tips, and strategies for your business. So first we're going to take a look at some of the big brands, how they got discovered from PR. On the left is Sir Richard Branson, and he started his record company in the 70s in New York City. And he got discovered from a reporter in New York City who saw the record company and started writing stories about his brand. And so from there, he continued using PR and he became a billionaire at age 41. So that's just one example of how that can happen. He still uses it today as he's launching rockets into space. Another example is the famous purse brand, Kate Spade. Sadly, she's no longer with us today, but she and her husband started their purse company out of their apartment in New York City. And Kate had a little leg up because she was a former editor, so she knew the power of the press. And once she started getting articles on her business and her purse business in the Vanity Fair and fashion magazines, even the Wall Street Journal, her sales surged from 100,000 to 27 million in 5 years. So that's just to show you some examples of how big brands used PR when they were small brands. And here's an example of one of my clients. She's a mom entrepreneur. She owns the company Sweet Megan Baking Company. And Patty started her company 5 years ago. She created gluten-free cookie dough because her daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease. And Patty, being an amazing mom and a former nurse, decided, I need to figure out something for my daughter so she can eat birthday cake at parties and not suffer from pain. So her story was amazing. She was successful, but she was ready to get more well-known and pick up more distribution. So she hired my company. We worked with her story and her strategy. And my goal was to get her more visibility, first in her local market, Philadelphia, and then nationally. And it worked. And she got on local TV, 5-minute news segment, and also a big feature story in the Philadelphia Inquirer. So again, not paying for advertising. And it opened doors to distribution. So this is the power of using PR when you grow your brand. And let me show you a quick story about myself, my own guinea pig story. I use PR in my business. I'm an entrepreneur. Many years ago, I bought a bankrupt business. Somebody once said, follow your passion and the profits will follow. So I took them literally, and I bought a bankrupt ice skating arena, 40,000 square foot facility in Florida, of all places. And let me just share with you the quick video, and you'll see how, without any experience, I launched into it and the success that followed. So, one of our key pieces of equipment broke, which was the Zamboni. And all of a sudden, there I'm faced with an unexpected huge expense as an entrepreneur. You have to pivot sometimes, just like we do today. And so I got creative with the marketing on the Stairmaster at the gym, working out, thinking, how am I going to grow this business? Get more people to linger longer, spend more money, have more fun. And I was reading an article in our local paper, like a 2 to 3 page, huge article on a chicken franchise owned by a husband and wife couple. And I thought, wow, if they can be in the paper, my business is surely really interesting in Florida. We should be in the media. So I do have a degree in marketing, but going to school and putting things into action are two different things. So without any experience, no media contacts, I started putting together these great stories that people always tell me. And I put it all together with photos and a hook, a strong hook and a headline, and wrote a press release and started pitching the sports editors. And we got picked up all the time. So that's how I launched into the PR process. And the business was pretty much in the media every month and on TV, in Sports Illustrated. So I learned that was a valuable way to help grow the brand very, very well. Strategic partnerships was also a big part of that. But today we're going to talk about the PR process and how you can utilize a lot of these techniques that are either overlooked or just unknown in the. So there you have it. That's the quick backstory to my story. And we're talking about using PR in storytelling. These are some of the clients that I've worked with in the past, both big and small, financial industry, travel industry. The client on the right, Penske Trust Company. I helped them triple their business to $3 billion in 3 years. And a lot of that was, I'm going to share some of these stories and techniques today with you. So that's an example of getting featured in dream publications. So right now I want you to be thinking, oh, that's an example of one of my other clients being featured on the Today Show, a little industry association that had been around 25 years, never had any media visibility. So it's a powerful tool. And now I'm going to first take a look at an observation. I want to know from you, are you overwhelmed with marketing? I mean, we have a very challenging environment in terms of media and messaging and overwhelm with marketing. I hear that all the time. So just curious in the chat, do you feel a little bit overwhelmed when it comes to marketing or creating content on social media? Again, if you're watching on the replay, just put a yes in the chat, or maybe you don't, and it's crystal clear. And if so, you shouldn't be watching me. So here's what it looks like. We get about 10,000 marketing messages a day. So we have marketing mania. Somebody just wrote here, Google ads killing me. Yes, yes, hello, yes. So I think you're overwhelmed. Yes, I feel your pain. So what can we do about it? Well, given the fact that our attention spans are now about 3 to 8 seconds long, that's sadly less than a goldfish, so they say. So we need to do something to step this up. And how do you stand out? That's what I'm going to be sharing with you. Some strategies I want you to be thinking about to put in your business. Storytelling, by far, one of the biggest, most powerful marketing tools is word of mouth. And one way to do that is by telling stories. And the media wants your stories. They need you. They need to know what's going on and who's ready for more positive news. So let's get your stories told. I want you to take away, the first key takeaway right here is PR is an underutilized content marketing strategy. So we all know we need to put a lot of content out there, and you have to keep getting in front of your customers and your prospects and your loyal customers, and there's just so much to do. But when you think about PR, I'm going to show you how one tool can help you alleviate all of this chaos. So think about it as part of a vital piece of your marketing mix. Here are some of the benefits that I found from doing this for a long time for clients in my own business. When you get media coverage, it helps increase your visibility. It gives you more credibility than just an ad, more customers, and more revenue. And if you're in business, you probably want all of these things. Yes? Yes, yes, yes. Say yes in the chat if you agree. So it starts with your message first. So let's look beyond social media for a minute. One of the biggest problems that I see today are people are chasing platforms. And it's your message that matters. We want to talk about messaging first, and then you choose the platform. So think about that. Again, your messaging, your stories, it's all about, that's where it starts. And then we figure out the platform that's right for you. So key takeaway, your message first, platform is second. All right, now we're going to dive into the 5 tips how to use PR creatively to grow your brand. Imagine that 75% of journalists said that fewer than a quarter of the pitches they receive are relevant. Just think about that for a minute. 75% say they're not relevant. A quarter of the pitches are not relevant. There's huge opportunity for you. If you get this part right, you have a much better chance of having your pitch picked up in the media. Remember I said you pray for that visibility? Well, there's a huge opportunity for you. And there's the old famous saying, I believe it was Wayne Gretzky, the only shot you miss is the one you don't take. So you might as well take it. They need you. That's another key takeaway. So imagine, this is pre-COVID, of course, but this might be a room of editors, reporters, journalists deciding what news they're going to cover. What stories do they want to put in that magazine, in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal? What story do we want to put on a TV show, a podcast? So they could be reading your news releases and make a decision based on what you feed them. And then that's how you could score some big coverage. There's a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes. There's a lot of strategy, but this is basically, there's opportunities that are really underutilized. I see it all the time. So number 1, what are your goals? Now, this is normally animated, but we know that Tiger wants to win. Yes, that's one of the goals, is know your end game. Know what you want in the end. Kind of like this. Here's an example of your goals. You want to improve your visibility. Maybe you want to elevate your thought leadership. Let's say you're in the medical field or the real estate industry. Well, I'll target the real estate industry. Maybe you specialize in finding millennials their first home, or perhaps you find second homes for baby boomers. You could easily elevate your thought leadership by communicating your thoughts on the marketplace. What are the trends that you're seeing? Maybe share some of your success stories. So these are ways to elevate your thought leadership. Same thing with the medical profession. Maybe you have a specialty. There's something that's new and trending. Again, the media wants to hear this from you. Perhaps one of your goals is you want to increase sales or you want to increase leads and you want to get more media exposure. That could be another one. So these all work together. So I like to say, as Stephen Covey, the famous author, says, begin with the end in mind. So again, if you want to elevate thought leadership, then you want to be having that kind of goal. If it's get local visibility versus national or global visibility, think in terms of that. That will help clarify it. Now, this is a goal that I had for my client, Pensko Trust Company. I worked with them as a consultant for 7 years. And my goal was they were successful for 15 years, but unknown in the media. And clearly the CEO was an expert in his field, which happens to be self-directed IRAs, a slice of the financial industry in the retirement sector. So naturally the goals would be, well, let's elevate thought leadership, get media exposure, get leads, get more business. That's the one that I mentioned. I helped triple to $3 billion in 3 years. And a lot of that was aggressive PR storytelling. And Time Magazine, they were featured in exclusively, in addition to a lot of the other financial journals and human interest stories. So we told a lot of those. And Time Magazine is reported to get about 6 million weekly readers. So that is massive media exposure in something like that. So think about your end goal and what kind of results you want to achieve. So let's make it, I'm going to make it simple here. There's basically two types of news. On the left, there's the news that is something like a new opening, a new product that you have, a new service, a new hire. On the left is one of my fitness client that we were expanding to 12,000 square foot facility. So that's newsworthy. And the business editor basically took the entire press release and put it in the paper on the front page of the Business Journal. So here's another key tip. Make it easy for a reporter to pick up your story by making it newsworthy, putting some statistics in there and make it interesting. And on the right side, the other type of news coverage, my personal favorite, human interest stories. We need more of these positive stories, and you have them in your businesses. Just like BIGVU is doing today and how they bring in different experts for their workshops, that's PRable, that's newsworthy. The fact that they're giving such a nice service to their users is spectacular. So there's so many different angles that you can pursue on this front. So think in terms of human interest stories and think what you would be interested in. And that's going back to the gluten-free baking company, Patty getting a 5-minute segment on the morning news show, which followed from the article that was placed in the Philadelphia Inquirer. So what happens is you get marketing momentum. The media wants to latch onto a breaking story. And all of a sudden, you're going to get a lot of phone calls. And it becomes easier. This is another example of my customers. When I was back in the ice skating arena business, I would hear the most interesting stories. And this one was quite touching. Debbie had a car accident at 16, and her doctor said, you really need to work on getting more exercise, and we have to strengthen your lungs. What kind of sport do you like? And Debbie thought, what kind of sports? I'm not really into sports. But the only thing I can think of was, I used to skate when I was a kid. So the doctor said, perfect, take up ice skating. So she did as an adult. She took up ice skating. She started taking tests and going all the way to become a gold medalist. And then beyond that, she became a judge, an ice skating judge. All of this from a car accident. So the point is, it was such a heartwarming, touching story. I said, can I share that with the media? So here's another point I want you to write down. If you decide to do this, make sure that your client, customer, or whoever has media clearance, meaning they're okay with being in the media. So just so many examples that you can write up and pitch. In this example, as a client he owns an at-home healthcare business. So rather than just focus on that part, which was newsworthy in itself, we did a lot of stories on that. He just returned from a golf trip, his dream trip to Scotland and Ireland. So I got a hold of the business publisher of the Business Observer magazine, and I knew that they did a story on executive diversions. And I thought, wow, what a perfect pitch. He just came back from this beautiful golf vacation. We live in Florida, a lot of golfers here. I pitched this story and we got a 4-page and front cover feature. Now, here's the best part of that. A CEO of a hospital contacted him after he read the article and said, oh, I saw that article in the Business Observer. I love golfing too. Well, anyway, they struck up a conversation. That CEO was on his target list for prospecting. So you never know where the leads are going to come from, but this kind of visibility can open a lot of doors for you. So get creative. And number 2, what's your story? So we all have a story. Think about why you started your business. There's a story right there. So definitely think about your customer stories, on and on and on. And this is first time I was ever called a PR goddess. So speaking of story, I thought I would just share this quick video. It was after I spoke at a conference, a CEO conference. And go ahead, Bruno. Thank you. I just met Richard and he said the cutest thing.
So anyway, I see you after running your speech and it's been really great. I see you as an ultimate PR goddess. And you're really smart at what you do. Oh. And I'm sure you can, and I've watched PR goddesses before go far beyond marketing and advertising because nobody believes it. And you do the power of story. Oh, by the way, you put it where it needs to be. Isn't that great?
Love that. This is totally off the cuff. Thank you. So that was really fun. But here's a tip for you. When you get a testimonial or a client says something to you that's complimentary about your business, if it's in the moment and you can, take your phone out and capture that on video. Maybe you could just ask them for a clip of what they just said, because testimonials are also something great to share. And so that one was super fun right after I spoke. And he also talks about nobody believes marketing and advertising. Well, he's married to a wife. His wife's in the marketing profession. But again, what he pointed out is the power of story. So that's really, public relations is all about shaping your story. And I say it's better to create your own reputation than be given one. So jot down some notes about why you started your company. What is it that you love to do? Just get creative with some of these ideas. Now, here's some tips for you. What's your hook? So remember in the beginning, we talked about our attention spans are minuscule. So just like it is on video, how important it is to get your hook right up front, you need a great hook for a pitch on a news release. So here's some examples to think about when you're going to use PR. What kind of news is happening in your industry? What can you give the media that's newsworthy? What trends are going on? How about some statistics? Maybe a new survey just came out. Do you have any special offers that you're promoting? Client stories are wonderful. And by the way, if you have any free events, you can score some free media coverage oftentimes in your newspaper. They want to know about what's going on, as long as it's free. In the calendar section, you can get that for free. You don't have to advertise your event. So take note of that one. And by the way, I do have a YouTube channel if you want to follow me for some more tips, and it's youtube.com/Robyn Levin. That would be wonderful. Subscribe. Love to have you on there. So number 3, where to pitch. So you know what you're going to say, where to pitch. Now I want you to think creative here, creatively. When I use the example of Penske Trust Company, it was the financial industry. So of course, all the financial journals were my target. But you can also go beyond that. This was pitching at a conference. I had just finished writing an ebook and a cocktail napkin plan template, which, by the way, if you want a quick 4-step marketing strategy template, you can get it at cocktailnapkinplan.com. But I had just finished an ebook and I created a product. So I had a press release in my hand and I was at a conference. So you never know where these opportunities are going to come up. And sometimes it's scary when you go and approach an editor or reporter for the first time. I can relate. It is, but you know what? The outcome is well worth it. So sometimes you just need to face the fear and hope for the best. So here's some other ideas where to pitch your news. Podcasts are huge, and podcast hosts are looking for guests, and you could be the perfect guest. Another place are industry magazines, or just look at any, if you go to the grocery store, if you go to a bookstore, we still have bookstores, thankfully. Just look at all the magazines. They need content. The editors are always looking for content. And on the right side, did you know that 90% of consumers say that they've discovered a new product and a brand on YouTube? So there's plenty of YouTubers out there. That would be another place for you to pitch. And you've got BIGVU for the wonderful tool to discuss your press release, discuss your news. So we're getting a little bit more creative and beyond the obvious. Now this example, this is really interesting. This is a client I worked with in Australia, and Tony Lantis is her name, and she overcame some mental health issues, actually pretty severe mental health issues. When she was a child, she had a botched surgery which left her face partially paralyzed. So she grew up being bullied and just all kinds of things, even tried to commit suicide, and thankfully she didn't. But she ended up writing a book, and then she decided, talking about face your fears, she left the nursing profession that she was in for 35 years and decided to recreate herself, rebrand herself, and became a podcast host. And she told me how nervous she used to get just podcasting, even though we couldn't see her. But then she went beyond podcasting. That became very successful. And she launched an online broadcasting channel, which is now ranked in 2% globally. So she was looking for help getting the brand out there and elevating her exposure. Things were really happening. She's becoming a big lifestyle brand. And so we worked together on her marketing strategy and spent a lot of time learning more about her and her business. And she used the press release in a different way. Let's watch this video.
The PR story that we did, were you able to utilize? Robyn created this one-page succinct document that told my story in a way that was empowering, inspiring, and aligned with the brand. I took that work that Robyn originally did and actually put it into a complete brand strategy and branding kit. I've also used that one-pager in awards and award nominations. So it made it really easy to just grab it and submit it. And I won a gold award and a silver award this year for business, which is really exciting. And that was largely due to using the work that Robyn and I had done earlier in the year. It made it simple. It gave them brand conciseness, and the information was readily available to the judges who were judging.
Oh, I love that. So here's an example where Tony told me that she was up for some awards, and I said, use the press release for it. And then she was like, yes, we should use the press release for that. Well, I love the fact that she won the business awards. She so deserves it. And again, if why not go for some awards in your industry? Think about how can you leverage that, whether it's awards in your videos or awards related to your industry. Maybe it's a local business award in your community. So these are powerful ways to create content and think a little bit outside of the box, which is what I specialize in. So beyond the obvious. So recap so far, I know I'm giving you a lot. Number one, your goals. Number two, create a newsworthy story, something that you think would be interesting. And of course, the readers or the viewers are going to think it's interesting. And number three, target media outlets. That's so far. So how do you do this? You might be thinking, okay, this sounds interesting. Well, where do you start? It starts with digital PR and in the form of a simple press release or an email. So a question sometimes I'll get from people are, really, press releases, do they still work? Yes, they do. There was a study done by journalists, 1,800 journalists surveyed, and they came up with 63% agreed press releases were the number one most valuable piece of content, which goes back to the content marketing strategy I talked about in the beginning. And press releases, they said, were the number one most trusted brand source, according to 44%. So that's another reason why this should be part of your marketing mix. Now, this is what a press release looks like online if you distribute them online, which is what we call digital PR. And I'm a huge fan of that because there's so much into this one press release. This is an example of, somebody just said, how do I create a press release? Exactly. So it starts with all the things I just talked about. You have to figure out your pitch, your hook, your story, and then the media outlets. And I'll give you a couple of distribution sites that you can use. But you basically start with your story. And I highly recommend that you have a professional copywriter or use a company like ours. We'll do it for you. But you want to include a hook, a headline, and then what's powerful about these digital news releases, you can put links in there. So I recommend about no more than 3 to 4 links on a one-page document, but you can get strategic here and put links to your website. We can also include a photo and a video, and videos are very, very useful with PR. And of course, all your contact information, your website on the back. So this is what a digital online press release looks like. And this one, by the way, was for a local tourism company that I did work with. They were launching a new company and they said, how do we get exposure? How do we get more eyeballs on our brand? And I said, well, let's write up some stories and get the word out there. So in the headline, I talked about St. Armand Circle, which is a local area attraction here. New culinary tour for Sarasota tourists and history buffs. So I mentioned the location. It addresses tourism, tourists, and history buffs. This was obviously pre-COVID, but it was picked up immediately in the local paper, local TV, and even in the Wall Street Journal. So it's a great way to get exposure. Again, it takes a lot of work behind the scenes to put the stories together and figure out some unique story angles. But you have this document and you can distribute it in many different ways. Quick question. I said I'd hold questions at the end, but I just see this one. Should a press release be no more than 1 page? Yes, a press release should be no more than 1 page. Highly recommend you limit it to no more than 500 words, as a matter of fact. Even 250 words to 500 words is a good guideline. So from the customer, from my client, did this work for her? In her words, she said, we hired Robyn's company to help launch a new company specializing in tourism. From a single press release came numerous inquiries, third-party endorsements, and an increase in ticket sales, which are so valuable to a startup business. So going back to the goals, your goals, this was helping them launch, get more visibility, get more sales, make more money. This little slide actually says, how long should the press release be? It's an audio file, but it doesn't play here on Restream, but it's how long should the press release be? No more than 500 words. Now, here's another thing that I really love about the digital PR. For those of you that are spending money on marketing and advertising, you want to measure the results. It's super important. So with the digital PR, we get tracking reports. We can see how many people interacted with the press release, how much engagement there was, how many times did the news release actually get picked up on a media outlet site. And the top one on this one was total pickup, meaning, which says 97 media outlets and influencers, even social media, did something with the news release. So you can definitely measure it. It's a valuable tool, and it helps you just be more effective in your marketing. And now we're going to talk about 10 ways to repurpose your press release, which is super valuable. Yes, you're creating the content once, but I want you to repurpose it many different ways, because why not take advantage of all that time and effort that you put into this one document? So how many times have you looked at your social media and you know you have to make a post, you know you want to make a post, but you just have that like, oh, what am I going to say? What am I going to put out today? I know I need to do it. Well, this will help you because what about that press release, that news story we just did? Yes, I can send it in my email newsletter. You can send it out in your social media. You can even make a little video, a couple of video clips about it. Post it on your website. Create an online newsroom on your website. Send it out text messaging. Maybe you have a blog. You can share it on other people's blogs. So do you get what I'm saying here? Say yes in the comments if this makes sense. It's a very, very practical way to repurpose your news, repurpose your content, and get a little bit of less overwhelm. Now, finally, you want to share your news. Once in a while, I'll hear, oh, I did PR and nothing happened with it. And I'll say, well, what did you do with the news story? And they'll look at me with this blank face, like, what do you mean? Well, did you share your news? Did you share it? Did you post it on the lobby wall? Did you post it if you have a restaurant or in your business? Did you send it out by email? So there's so many ways to share your news that people forget about. So that's really important. Once you get the write-ups, once you get the exposure, make sure you blast it everywhere. Because you know what? We all love stories, and people tend to share the stories with their friends, their family, their colleagues. And lastly, you want to be prepared. So when it comes to doing everything that we talked about here, and now you're ready for an interview, let's say that this worked beautifully, and Robyn, oh my gosh, I got a call from the reporter. Now what? So you definitely want to be prepared. And so here's my tip for that. We work hard with our clients on coming up with 3 bullet points, but think about the 3 important things that you would want conveyed. So whatever that interview looks like, whether it's on the phone, if it's an email, you want to think about just 3 main points. And if you do get the TV interview, like my client Patty, I said, above all, smile. If you forget everything else, which she didn't, because we worked a lot, we did a lot of coaching. But above all, I said, smile if you're going on TV. So that is pretty much PR in a nutshell. And I hope that you got value and it inspired you. Please say yes if it did. And if you want more information, I am available. This is a slide that you can reach me. I also have a press release template. If you want a copy of that, free template, pretty much boilerplate template, you can email me at info@robynlevin.com. Put in subject line template. If you want to schedule a call, schedule a 15-minute call with me, go ahead and use that link. And if you want to learn more, I am going to be having a boot camp, live boot camp starting April 4th. Get a hold of me, let me know. BIGVU folks will get a substantial discount. So let me know how that was. I hope it was helpful. Again, inspiring. There's so much more that you can do. And alleviate the frustration and overwhelm, and also make it more effective in your marketing. Thank you all. And back to Bruno.
Yeah. Thank you, Robyn, for the valuable information here. You cannot hear me? What about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robyn, for the valuable information. Now we have 3 questions for you, Robyn. So let me highlight them on the screen before we finish. First one.
Okay, is press releases, I'm reading it. Is press releases a one-page document which we create ourselves for sending it to other people who can help us get more visibility or media coverage? Yes, a press release, you can use it many different ways, but the digital PR is the way to distribute it online. And there's many services that you can use. I recommend, let's see, we use PR Web. I would avoid a free service. And the reason is with free, you're going to get a lot of advertisements. And so your news will kind of get buried and you may get your competitors' news. So you don't want that. And the price range for a distribution service is anywhere from $99 to $500. Oh, it could even go up from there, depending on the options that you choose. Excuse me. The other thing that you can do is you can create it for yourself easily, and you could pitch it to your local paper. You could pitch it to your local newspaper, but again, make sure that you use a professional copywriter. You don't want to misspell anybody's name, and you just want to make sure that it's professional. Otherwise, the journalists aren't going to look at that. So take
Great.
that.
Pretty good. One more.
Is PR and branding the same thing? PR is part of branding. PR is part of your brand building process. So it's, look at it as marketing should be an integrated process, meaning everything works together. So when you create like one piece of content, you want to get out in many different ways, sort of like a wheel, spokes. And so you want it all working together. And PR is all about shaping your story, positioning yourself in the industry, and it's a huge part of brand building. Great question.
Great. That's it. This was it. This was the questions, Robyn. And I'm sending your links here on the chat again. Someone who wants this free PR template to get in touch with Robyn. I heard some notifications from your side, so probably it's the email from the users.
Thank you.
Just get in touch with her. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Robyn.
Thank you. Thank you, BIGVU. Thank you all for watching. And I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, Bruno. Thank you.